Yes, hello everyone. Joel Clark again. After my interview with Alexander Macrease, I actually have a couple of days off where I'm not doing interviews or anything, so I am not working. I don't have the kids right now, and I can actually work on stuff. So finally, I get a chance to sit down and work on this stuff without being stressed or sick or busy. It's nice. Anyway, so I've got this little setup here to give you guys an idea of what I'm working on. Right now, I'm doing the cheat sheet. This is version 3 of the cheat sheet. So my process here, and I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. It's really, really, really important to have a process, right? I actually learned that from this little book right here, 101 Things I Learned in Architecture School. If you're going to be a game designer, get a copy of this book and just keep it near you and very slowly absorb it into the DNA of your mind, right? Let me see if I can actually find this particular lesson. The way it works is that it just gives you like a little visual, right there, and then a little lesson, and every single page gives you another one. So that's one of the most. This is one of the single most useful tomes in terms of like actually giving you what you need to get a project to completion, um, and consistently doing that. I've never found a better tome for that. Highly recommended. Let me see if I can find this particular lesson. I didn't memorize which page it was on, but I remember it being later in the book. It was something to the effect of sometimes as a student, let me see if this is it. Yeah. Sometimes as a student, you will be graded not on your product, but on the process you use to get to that product. And this is really important because, yeah, sure, maybe you made something brilliant, but if you actually don't know how you did it, you'll never do it in real life. So that's a really enlightening. Let me see. I'm not seeing it anywhere. It's in here though. I promise you, and I will show it to you one of these days. Not now, obviously. This is a very this is a tome that is very dense with true wisdom, and that's a kind of a it makes it a thing that although it is very light and easy to read in a single sitting, it is impossible to absorb in perhaps even a lifetime. So it's quite an impressive little piece of work. As a game designer, I highly recommend it. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I was doing with Acid and Steel was examining my process, what I did to make Lone Wolf Fist, and like interrogating it. Like, okay, did this make what I wanted it to make? Did it fail to reach my goals? Was this easy and quick for me? Was it a slog? What should I outsource? Which is something that I wasn't used to. There are some things you need to outsource. This beautiful art you're looking at right here. It's a good example of something I needed to outsource. I would never in a million years be able to make something this beautiful. But good old Kazuki did, and he did it really cheap too. So little things like that really and it's just looking at your process. Like, what did you use? So I've been writing down my process a lot. I want to share a little bit of that with you. So with the cheat sheet, the genesis of that was that I simply asked my Discord, like, okay, I've got new people here. I had a lot of new people coming in at the start of the Kickstarter, and I was like, what do you guys want to see? Like, what would help you to get this game to run at your table? And a cheat sheet was the biggest thing. Like they were like, give us a cheat sheet over and over and over. That was the thing. Like, give me something I can just break down and hand to my players. Say, this is how you play this game. Um, and so I did a draft of that based around like the core mechanics of the game, the rolling and making sets and all of those things, which are outlined in the core book, and I think in a pretty succinct way. But they are about 25 pages in. I don't actually remember precisely how deep they are in the book, but they're deep enough that they're not like the first thing you see, and they're not repeated really. They're repeated once in the combat rules. They kind of restate the core system and give you a little more process for running a combat. But in terms of like a cheat sheet, like a handout you can give to players, I really don't have anything like that. I've got the GM screen for the GM, which has all the lovely processes on it, but there's not much to educate players. And I find that the advice they were giving me is something that was echoed in my own experience trying to run this for people. Because I'm a pretty fun loving guy, and I'm a good GM about whatever games I run. So if I'm like, hey guys, would you like to help me try test out my game and see if you like it? Very frequently, people are excited about the idea, but whenever I start handing them the character sheets and telling them the stuff they can do, they very rapidly get scared and skittish and nervous because it's all very new stuff, right? And I was like, it actually would be very useful to have a cheat sheet and be like, here, if you have any troubles with the rules, here's a cheat sheet. It really gives you the idea of what you do. Um, and then over the course of a session or two, they could probably pretty rapidly learn what decisions they could make. And like that's a really big important thing for a player of a game to know what decisions they can make and what decisions they can't make. Um, so so cheat sheet was the big number one thing that got suggested. So I made a first draft and I did something very, very smart, which was I showed it to people. So step one was solicit feedback to see what was necessary for new players. Step two was to act on it. Then step three was to exhibit it and solicit feedback. So I solicited feedback, and very quickly they were like, "We need, I still have questions here. I still have questions there." And I got really good, solid feedback. So what I did was I compiled that feedback, which you'll see right here. This is actually the second round of compiling feedback. But the first round of compiling feedback was just this. I just got it from the Discord wherever I got it, and then I put it into a Google document, and then I took that and I used that when I was redesigning it. So here's the current version of the cheat sheet, and you can see that it's much more. It's pretty complete. It's like five pages, and it's got a lot of stuff going on. Currently, I am working on taking this, which is version 2, and integrating the feedback from the third round of feedback, which I thought was like this might be the definitive end version, but again, next step was to show it to people and be like, okay, what do you think about this? Do you still have questions? Are there any errors that stand out to you? I made a math error that got pointed out a few times, so I'm glad that got caught. And in addition to that, I got some really good high quality feedback from people, which you're seeing here. This is the second round of feedback, really good high quality stuff. So I'm using this and I'm trying to use this to think from first principles about like, okay, now that I've got the thing in front of me, what can I break apart? What can I redo? What can I revise? And also, what can I do different versions of? So, to give you an example, let me see if I can make this bigger. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so to give you an idea of what I'm doing here, I actually want you to see it as well as possible. So here we go. So here's the how to do stuff. This is all very basic, and you'll note that like it needs to get fixed a little bit. I'm making all of these smaller. Here's attacks and defenses. Now I actually was thinking about attacks and defenses. You can see here that I've got the normal choosing a set, and then here I've got a use a technique, and then I've got the enemy who's not using a technique, and I'm making fun of them for sucking, and then I'm showing them the process of that attack plus technique minus defense equaling damage and what the outcome of that is. So I'm actually thinking, because of this feedback that I've gotten, that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do attacks and defenses without techniques, like a whole page about just the general process flow, and then here's how techniques work, and then this is going to get reformatted so it's a little smaller. But then I'm going to do another version of this, attacks and defenses and techniques, and I'm going to add in, I'm just going to do this exact thing again, but I'm going to add in steps in a different color, and they're going to be like, here is where a technique can add in, here is where a technique can add in. And my thinking is, oops, I didn't mean to minimize that. My thinking is that, there we go. What'll happen then is it'll clarify what it is I'm doing. And again, it'll serve as a way to get players to think about, okay, what decisions am I making? Where are the places where I can influence things, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And the feedback is what's allowing me to think about these in this terms. I'm thinking about the feedback, and the feedback is something to the effect of, there's a lot of different parts of the system detail-wise that I'm excluding from this cheat sheet. And I was like, well, I could make, if I put too many in there, it won't be a cheat sheet. It'll just be this big cluttered mess. But I could probably like clear away all the stuff that isn't just the general process flow of like how fighting works, and then add in more complexity in another version of it that just kind of reiterates what they just learned and then shows them, okay, and now that you're familiar with the process, here's a step where you can make a decision. here's a step where you can make a decision. Here's the outcome of those decisions. And that'll give them something more tactile to work with. It's a set of examples that feel more like a cheat sheet to me. Something that's referential and something that's explanatory in an immediate way, like in the heat of, okay, I just threw an attack. Can I use my kung fu move with it? I feel like that's kind of a critical question to be able to answer in a game about throwing kung fu punches. So there you go. I wanted to pop on and show you guys what I was up to. I want to get this done, and I'm going to put a version of it on my Discord, the Fistiverse, and if it is popular enough and passes the last round of muster, I'll do one last little cleanup, and I'm going to put this on DriveThruRPG for free. I'm also going to put it up on the Kickstarter for all of the backers and on the Patreon for all of my patrons. So, thanks very much for supporting me and for supporting the game. Behold how I reward you for that. I hope you're happy. This was a lot of work. And now that you've seen the process, now if you want to make a role-playing game, you have an idea for how to make certain you have a process that you can use that will produce results. Aren't you lucky? All right. Take care, knuckleheads. I'll see you next time.